the warden's sitting in the corner, he couldn't run the place, and Lou Brent was sitting in there, right? The guy come in to give account, I guess, and Bobby had just, I was on the phone with Bobby, is everything all right on there? So there was some incident and everything, and I'm on the phone, so he comes in, and the guy, the lieutenant, wants to give somebody the paper. So I just reached my hand up, it wasn't nothing, you know, here, right? And then he goes walking, he said, damn it, I told you, Carmichael's running the prison for the time, go all running again.
Their worst nightmare.
Worst night.
We had negotiations, they brought in this guy Anderson, who was a negotiator with the grape industry, whatever it is. He was on the bad side of it, right? And we negotiated with him for 16 hours, right? And we listened to everything that we wanted. And he said, okay, if we give you all of this, what do you give us? And I could have kissed Ralph's hand. Ralph's hand said, we'll dump the garbage bags. He took all his papers, threw them up in the air, ran out of the room. We got all of his notes and everything. And see, they gamed us. We didn't understand it at the time. They brought in who was supposed to be the American Arbitration Association.
That's right.
Right.
Which was theoretically respected group.
But it was a scam part of it too. Now, they were trying to program us that, you know, they were training us in negotiations. And we'd be in the class and they'd say, okay, you're gonna give me this, you get that, you know, you're gonna get 75%, they're offering you 70%, what do? We go to war. No, you can't go to war, you can't go to war. So listen, we want it all. Well, we go to war. We just
Good style negotiating.
That's how we negotiated. See, the game they played, if you take a pie, all right, they took everything away from us. Now, you want to negotiate with us. Now, let's say you give us 3/4 of the pie. Well, we've actually given you that other quarter. You're sucking us into giving up what we already had. So he said, no. We want the whole pie and then some. So why should you get more than the whole pie? So that's your punishment for doing what you did to us. We want programs, we want this, we want that. Oh, you go to war. And like me and Ralph, we were negotiating, it was kind of a funny thing. Ralph had this big afro. Ralph's a big guy. He got big arms like this. And he had all this African stuff on, right? And we would go, and this was all planned. We'd go and be negotiating with them, right? And I'd be trying to get them to back off on something, right? And I said, come on, right? As soon as I did that, Ralph would slam the table and said, a nigger can't get anything. And he would scare the living shit out of them. They thought he was coming over the table. Ralph, take it easy, of course. And if you didn't give, I'd let him go. And then, don't let that nigga go.
Good cop, bad cop.
And we tuned them up with that kind of thing. But they were playing us, right? Because now when we did the negotiations, we did all the signing off. I signed off as the president. What's his name? Signed off for the governor. The guards union.
Eisenberg?
Might have been Eisenberg. But the Goldman,
he was secretary.
Right.
Secretary.
And all these people signed this thing, right? And the American Arbitration Association said that they would hold these papers in perpetuity, right? So that any of us could get them, Now, I searched for them when I hit the street because the canteen one, right, that we signed off on was that the canteen belongs to the prisoners, right? The canteen,
Put your money in.
canteen makes big money. It has a captive audience, right? They gave the canteen to guess who? Barbara Bush's company.
Oh, that's right, y'all didn't know that, did you?
Yeah, Laura Bush is #1 owner now.
Whenever you go
Okay.
to prison and you see those vending machines, if you've ever been in prison, yeah.
She got a piece of the action. Yeah. But now, I was trying to track down this paper.
See, you won't believe this stuff.
You can't make this stuff.
You can't make it up.
You can't make it up.
Well, see, now I'm searching for this paper, right? Because now they've gotten well over $10 million that belongs to the prisoners. If I can get this document, right, I have legal standing because I'm a signer
That's right.
of the document. So I can now challenge them and really jack them up and get money for the prisoners and for programs. I called the American Arbitration Association. They said, I don't know who told you that. We'd never hold anything in perpetuity. It was a scam all the time. They were there to, these individuals that were supposed to be the American Arbitration Association were simply there to get us to negotiate for the Department of Corrections.
And to buy time
Right.
And-
while there was this court case
Right.
to determine whether or not a prisoners union, which was the whole point of the NPRA, not prison reform, but a prisoners union, in light of the 13th Amendment and all the other stuff that you're learning about now that Jason is telling you about, that could have revolutionized
Oh, that was-
the way the whole thing would work.
Right.
But at the end of the day, as you can imagine,
It's not about corrections,
best
it's about job
justice
security.
money can buy, you know, they were able to get it ruled illegal. And they could, that prisoners could not organize. And so that's all they needed. So once they got that, then they didn't have to run the game anymore. And American.
Well, here's the
Arbitration-
game that they played. Now, the elections that we had, all right, there were alleged arbitration association representatives, guards, administration, prisoners, outside observers. 5 people, there were groups of 5 people. Now, in the big dining room, you'll see a picture of it when you see 3,000 Years in Life. There's a table covered with shoeboxes, and there's 5 people standing there watching them. Inmates coming in, all right? There's 5 people at the door. You give them your name, they verify who you are. They let you in. At the end of the table, there's a shoebox. Now, this shoebox, by them 5 people, opened up the shoebox, showed it to everybody, nothing's in the shoebox. They started sealing, put it at the end of the table. The guy comes in, there's nothing but a pencil at the end of the table. They give him a single piece of paper. He goes down to the box, he signs who he wants to represent him, and drops it in the box. When the entire block has voted, they now seal that box. Take it and put it on another table, there's another group of 5 people watching the boxes. All right? This is how the election was done, okay? 3 months later, and the other part is when they checked them out, they opened the box in front of everybody, opened the thing up, and they took out 1 piece of paper at a time and showed everybody what it said, and then marked down the election. 97% of the population voted for NPRA. All right? 3 months later, they said, we rigged the election. And they refused to recognize us. And I was off to Marion again.
Yeah, and they definitely had a plan.
They always had a plan.
But, you know, I don't know that we had the time to do 3 strikes out this time. You'll be back with.
And I'll bring paperwork that'll show you what the 3 strikes is really all
Because
about.
it's very important to understand the massive national campaign that's involved in this. But you all want to know a little bit about what happened afterwards, which is important to do. Once Boone was put out as commissioner, you can imagine he had a very high profile in his community. And there were some people wanting to run, you know, for Congress or whatever. I mean, he had gotten all kinds of publicity. And there was a lot of sympathy for him because it was very obvious what had happened. And the governor had caved, the guard union had won, quote unquote. They had destroyed Walpole. They just went in there, it was a nightmare. That's a whole other story. And I was there with Bill Owens, who was state rep at the time, which of course we knew that was going to end, but it was really pretty brutal. But anyhow, long story short, Channel, yes, you probably got the scars to prove it.
Yeah.
And Channel 7, HDH, which still exists, was at that time under the ownership of a integrated consortium of people that included 3 prominent African Americans. And they didn't have the controlling share. Actually, a guy named Ralph Mugar had the controlling share, but he was sympathetic. And so they hired Boone as their community relations director, and essentially gave him a budget on behalf of the television station to work with the community and to vet television shows that would speak to the community, because if those of you who know the history of the FCC know that a lot of the stations in those days were under heavy scrutiny about community access and community involvement. And so this was a beautiful way for them to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So Boone was a righteous guy, very pretty. He got married, which was a big help, because he, you know, that was one of his problems. But anyhow, that's another story. And he did 2 very important things. The first thing that he did was he created a secret organization. You gotta love it. See, it's one of the conspiracy theories, so you gotta love these. And I was in on it. And it was a think tank made up of key blacks in many different positions in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we basically served as a policy group and think tank for the Legislative Black Caucus and for blacks in state government, and came up with many ideas and programs very quietly without our fingerprints being on it, and organized certain elections. For example, Bell King got elected to state rep. And our 2 greatest achievements from that group was that 2 of the original members of that group were people who had real passion about children in one case and freeing South Africa in the other. So we contacted people that we knew in Washington, and Marion Wright Edelman left Boston. She was an old buddy of mine from the SNCC days, and founded the Children's Defense Fund. And Randall Robinson left Boston and founded the Africa, what the hell is it that he founded? It wasn't Free South Africa, it was, but anyway, the big lobby that worked on African issues, Free South Africa and all that kind of stuff. And then he wrote that great book, Reparations. But anyhow, so those were our 2 achievements of substance, plus giving Boone some relevance. Now that's what we did in private, but what he did in public was he got me and I forget who else, somebody else. I don't know if it was Judge Elam or not, but anyway, it was somebody else. And we incorporated, Jason will love this, we incorporated the national campaign to abolish prison, 1975. And I was the first president. So I have been an abolitionist since 1975. And to watch his transformation as he was a classmate of Martin Luther King Jr. He was a guy that was righteous, but he also came out of the prison system. And while he was quote unquote reforming, he wasn't a radical. But after that experience with Walpole, he then came all the way over and realized there's only one way to deal with this crap.
Shut it down.
And that shut it down. And so he worked hard, and it was fascinating to watch how he would because of his prominence and his association with Channel 7, he could get in the door of the foundations. And at one point, it looked like we were actually going to get some significant grants for some of the big hitters in Boston, for some of the biggest philanthropies in the country are right here in Boston, the Barr Foundation and whatever. And it looked like they were about to give us money. And it was fascinating to observe the politics that went on to cut that off. But in the meantime, we had had enough money so he could actually hire some people. And he hired, I don't think he ever hired you?
No.
But he hired-
I was.
Hired some other
Oh, yeah,
people.
I was hired when the first game.
That's right, and
Oh,
then,
yeah.
and then
And the other.
several of his staff
Yeah, right.
left with him.
Oh,
And we began the whole process of literally trying to create a national organization to abolish prison. But obviously, we needed some significant minutes before we finish to ask questions, because you really, I'm sure found this fascinating. But there must be some questions that you would like to put to these two gentlemen that are relevant to the class, what you're learning, and what you're hearing from them sort of from the inside out. So feel free. And everything they said is true. More besides, old comic used to
And wait till the 27th.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll bring some paperwork so that you can really get a good picture of what the prison industrial complex really is. People don't recognize it and the damage that it's doing every day.
So feel free, come on. Or comments, doesn't have to be questions.
Question,
Yes.
I'm dying to know. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I want to know. When you all were fighting with the guards, before the fight happened or the walkout happened, if they wanted to, because they had the power, could they do inappropriate things like to your food? Or could they have you set up?
They did that when we were locked in the cells and they had to bring the food. They messed with the food. You'll see that you'll hear guys express that, they'll tell you that in 2003. I mean, 2000.
3,000 years ago, right?
That happened.
And if they wanted to set you up to be sexually assaulted, have you somewhere off?
Okay, now here's a problem, right? Some places prisoners get raped.
right.
In Walpole, all right, it's a different ballgame. People that got raped, it wasn't actually about sex, it was degrading an individual.
Yes.
Right? But I mean, it wasn't a sexual act, and it was very rare that something like that ever happened. The pecking order,
Yeah, you need to
Right.
explain why.
the bottom is child molesters. Rapists next to them, mixed in with stool pigeons. The top is you go up your most dangerous killers and confidence men. and
Wise
whatnot.
guys, what-
If you're in that low order, you rape another man, that's rape. You're not living with us.
Yeah,
You will not live in our cell block. Go PC.
yeah, or die.
Or you die.
Yeah. It's a
You're not
violent-
gonna live with
There's no
us.
joke about
You know?
it. Yeah.
And so, there's a misunderstanding that like some places in California and whatnot, they have sexual problems and all that stuff. We really didn't have that in Walpole.
Plus, remember, it's New England.
Yeah, the guard, and one of the things that bothers the guards, pick and choose who their brutality is going to happen to.
Right, so
okay?
they're angry at you when they
Okay,
set you
well,
up.
you're not gonna fool with me. Number one, I'm from Newton, I might be organized crime, that means somebody can get you on the street. So you ain't gonna do nothing to me, okay? You, on the other hand, you got some young guy in there who's got nobody or doesn't know anybody.
He can get,
He can get beat up, he can get abused and stuff like that.
Mentally ill prisoners.
Oh,
When I was
yeah,
in
right,
DDU,
yeah.
the Supermax, I was there 5 years and 1 month. There was it's 124 beds. At least 24 were mentally ill prisoners. They cannot function in general population. And if they get near guards, like I had a guy up in the 3rd tier with me, a big black guy, and early in the morning till late at night, he was arguing and yelling at somebody in his cell. I mean, very scary, I mean, and swearing and the whole bit. Long as